The sun rises softly over the distant hills, casting golden light upon the quiet monastery garden. Buddha sits beneath an ancient tree, his eyes calm and filled with understanding. The disciples gather around him, anticipation and devotion clear in their eyes. The scent of earth and morning dew lingers as they settle in silence. Buddha reaches into a small pouch and pulls out a single seed. This seed holds potential, yet without the right conditions, it cannot grow, he says gently. The disciples listen, their breaths slow and steady in the cool morning air. The mind is like a garden, Buddha continues, observing the seed in his open palm. If left untended, weeds of ignorance will overtake it, he warns softly. One disciple, young and earnest, furrows his brow in thought. Master, how do we prepare the soil of the mind? He asks respectfully. Buddha presses the seed into the earth, covering it carefully with his fingertips. Mindfulness is the soil in which wisdom grows, he answers, his voice steady. If the soil is dry, the seed struggles. If it is rich, the seed thrives. Another disciple leans forward, curiosity bright in her eyes. What if the soil is filled with doubt and fear? She asks. Buddha lifts his gaze, meeting hers with warmth and patience. Doubt clouds the mind as dry earth resists water, he explains. But through mindfulness, we soften the resistance. Preparing for growth, he pours water gently onto the planted seed, watching as the soil absorbs it. Water is compassion. Without it, no life can flourish, he states. The disciples exchange glances, their understanding deepening. Buddha folds his hands together, resting them on his lap. We cultivate mindfulness by tending to our thoughts and actions, he continues. If we feed anger, it spreads like weeds, overtaking the garden. A soft breeze rustles the leaves above, carrying the scent of jasmine. A disciple speaks, her voice hesitant yet sincere. Master, I struggle with anger. It grows before I can contain it. Buddha nods, his expression gentle and knowing. Anger, like fire, consumes when left unchecked, he says. But fire can also bring light if understood and directed wisely. The disciple bows her head, reflecting on his words. How do I control anger before it consumes me? She asks quietly. Buddha reaches for a nearby stone, holding it in his palm. If thrown in frustration, this stone may hurt someone, he says. But if placed with intention, it strengthens the foundation of a temple. He sets the stone down beside the newly planted seed. The same energy that fuels anger can nourish wisdom, he continues. Redirect it through patience and understanding, and transformation begins. The disciples absorb his words, their minds turning like the shifting wind. Buddha gestures toward the seed resting beneath the soil. Growth takes time. You must trust the process, he says simply. One disciple, skeptical yet thoughtful, tilts his head. Master, how do we trust something we cannot see? He asks. Buddha clasps his hands together, contemplating the question. We trust because life itself moves forward. Whether or not we control it, he answers. The seed does not question its path. It simply grows when the time is right. Silence settles over the disciples as they absorb the lesson. The golden light of morning stretches across the monastery walls. Birds sing softly, their voices weaving into the rhythm of the moment. Buddha closes his eyes, breathing deeply, his presence unwavering. Patience is the highest form of wisdom, he finally says. Do not rush the mind's awakening, just as we do not rush the seed's growth. The disciples nod, their thoughts still but full of understanding. Buddha rises, his robes flowing as he steps toward the garden's center. Each of you must tend to your own inner garden, he reminds them. Nurture it with mindfulness, water it with compassion, and protect it from distraction. His voice carries gently over the courtyard, steady and clear. The disciples bow, their hearts lighter with new wisdom. In silence, they begin tending to the earth, mirroring the lesson. Buddha smiles, observing their hands moving with care and reverence. The sun climbs higher, and the world continues its patient cycle of growth. Thus, the teachings take root, just as the garden flourishes. Another day, another lesson beneath the vast sky, where the wind carries whispers of past teachings. Buddha sits near the monastery garden, watching the disciples tend to the plants with careful hands. The morning air is cool, scented with damp earth and the fragrance of blossoming jasmine. A young disciple approaches, frustration shadowing his usually serene face. "Master, I have nurtured my seed, but it does not grow," he says. Voice tinged with doubt, Buddha places a hand upon the earth, feeling the pulse of life beneath his fingers. Growth comes in its own time, never through force or impatience, he says. The disciple kneels beside him, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "But I have given it water each day, yet nothing emerges," he insists. Buddha takes a clay bowl, filling it with clear water from the well. Water sustains, but only when it is given in balance, he explains gently. If poured too hastily, it drowns. If withheld, it starves. The disciple watches as Buddha slowly tilts the bowl, letting water seep into the soil. "Compassion is the water of the mind," Buddha continues. Voice steady. "To nourish others, we must first learn how to nourish ourselves." Another disciple steps forward, hands clasped as she listens intently. "Master, how do we cultivate compassion when others bring pain?" she asks softly. Buddha lifts his gaze, observing the movements of the garden before him. A tree does not resent the storm, nor does the river reject the stone, he replies. Compassion arises when we release the desire to control or retaliate. The disciples exchange glances, absorbing the quiet wisdom in his words. A soft breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the scent of fresh rain upon the air. Buddha reaches for a fallen leaf, turning it gently between his fingers. Life moves forward, always changing, yet it does not resist its course, he says. To hold compassion, one must accept impermanence, embracing each moment as it is. A disciple, hesitant, kneels beside Buddha, eyes troubled with doubt. "Master, I wish to practice kindness, yet anger rises within me," he confesses. Buddha meets his gaze, unshaken, unwavering. "Anger is a flame that consumes the one who holds it," he says gently. "But in understanding its source, one finds the path to peace." He dips his fingers into the water bowl, watching the ripples shift outward. When disturbed, the water loses clarity, just as the mind does in anger, Buddha explains. But when we allow stillness, the truth reveals itself. The disciple bows his head, contemplating the lesson with quiet resolve. Buddha rises, stepping forward toward the heart of the garden. He gestures toward the plants, green with life, thriving in the morning light. Each of these grew because they were nurtured with balance, he says. Some needed more water, some less, but all were met with patience. The disciples follow his steps, their hands touching the leaves with reverence. Kindness is given as water is poured, not forcefully, not selfishly, but in accordance with what is needed, he continues. He picks a ripe fruit from a low-hanging branch, rolling it in his palm. When the tree bears fruit, it does not hoard its bounty, Buddha says. It shares freely, asking for nothing in return, trusting the cycle of life. The disciples nod, understanding deepening within them. Buddha places the fruit in the hands of the frustrated disciple. Growth is not measured by speed, but by the depth of understanding, he says. The morning sun shifts, casting golden light across the monastery walls. Birds sing softly, harmonizing with the rustling leaves above. Buddha closes his eyes, breathing in the simple beauty of the moment. Compassion is not a task, nor is it a duty. It is a way of being, he says. The disciples bow, carrying the lesson within their hearts. They return to their garden, tending to the earth with newfound patience. Buddha watches, his smile light as the passing breeze. Another day, another teaching, and so the cycle continues. Another day, another lesson beneath the ever-changing sky, where the wind carries quiet whispers of past teachings. Buddha stands near the ripened fields, watching disciples gather the fruits of their labor with careful hands. The golden sun bathes the monastery garden, illuminating each leaf with its gentle warmth. A disciple approaches, carrying a basket filled with freshly harvested produce. Master, we have gathered the fruits, but how should we use them? He asks thoughtfully. Buddha takes a single fruit, rolling it gently between his palms. The tree does not hoard its gifts. It shares freely, he says. The disciple furrows his brow, contemplating Buddha's words. But is it not wise to store and keep for ourselves? He asks. Buddha lifts his gaze, observing the vastness of the land before them. To cling is to fear loss. To share is to trust abundance, he replies. Another disciple kneels, setting down her basket beside the others. Master, how do we know when we have enough? She asks sincerely. Buddha smiles, placing the fruit upon the earth. Enough is not measured by possession, but by contentment, he says. The disciples glance at the harvested produce. Reflecting on his words, Buddha gestures toward the garden, where plants continue to thrive. True peace is found when we do not cling, but allow all things to flow, he explains. A disciple hesitates, eyes filled with uncertainty. Master, I fear that if I give too much, I will be left empty, he admits. Buddha walks toward a well, dipping a bowl into the cool water. If water fears being taken, it ceases to nourish, he says. But in flowing freely, it replenishes itself. He pours the water onto the roots of a nearby tree. The act of giving creates space for renewal, he continues. The disciple bows his head, reflecting on Buddha's wisdom. Buddha kneels, pressing his hand against the earth. The garden thrives not through possession, but through care and trust, he says. Do not hold tightly to what is meant to be shared. A soft breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the scent of ripe fruit. Another disciple steps forward, concern clear in his voice. Master, if we give freely, how do we ensure survival? He asks. Buddha lifts his hands, gesturing toward the cycle of nature around them. The tree gives without demand, and yet it is sustained, he answers. To live in harmony, one must trust that the cycle continues. The disciples exchange glances, their understanding deepening. Buddha picks up a fallen leaf, turning it gently between his fingers. Life moves forward, whether or not we hold on to it, he says. To resist change is to resist life itself. A disciple kneels beside Buddha, uncertainty lingering in her eyes. Master, if we accept impermanence, how do we find security? She asks. Buddha places the leaf upon the earth, watching it settle into the soil. Security is not found in holding on, but in embracing the moment, he replies. To fear loss is to fear the natural rhythm of existence. The disciples close their eyes, absorbing the lesson in silence. The golden light shifts, stretching across the monastery walls. Birds sing softly, weaving their melodies into the morning air. Buddha breathes deeply, his presence calm and unwavering. The true harvest is the wisdom gained through experience, he finally says. To take only what is needed and give with an open heart. That is peace. The disciples bow, their hearts lighter with newfound understanding. They carry the fruit toward the monastery, offering it freely. Buddha watches, his smile soft as the passing wind. Another day, another teaching, and so the cycle continues. They build, expand, and change. How can they grow without harming the land? The Buddha lifted a fallen leaf. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.